What's up YouTube, ODST General back again, and today guys I bring to you another versus for the emergency series or first responder series here. So today's going to be a little bit different as today instead of doing two separate franchises that are similar, we're going to be doing the same franchise with the original and the sequel. So 911 Operator being the original, 1112 Operator being the sequel. So between these two games, there is obviously going to be a significant amount of similarities as well as some differences. So I just kind of want to highlight some of those differences. Now, since this is only a 30-minute play session, essentially these both ended up being kind of tutorials almost. They don't have all of the gameplay features and everything, and this isn't supposed to be an in-depth look at gameplay features, so things like wildland firefighting from 1112 was not highlighted. I don't know if 911 Operator has wildland firefighting. They added a lot of stuff since I originally played, so it felt like a very different game since I had actually last played. Starting us off, you can see there's a similarity right off the get-go with both games having tips as far as actual real life emergency goes, you know, or emergencies go, and how to handle them and stuff. You can see the biggest difference between the two is the fact that 1112 Operator has 3D animated videos representing how to handle those emergencies. So, kind of skipped ahead a little bit, so while I kind of lingered a little bit on the tips and stuff for 1112 Operator, I hopped right into the game as soon as I could
disperse your units throughout the city.
911 Operator there.
The plus or minus
and
or
you can see I've got a bit of a tutorial going on. Instead of hopping into 1112, you get this nice little introduction since I started this Suedo campaign here. It's a city-based campaign, so not like a proper full campaign for the game, which it does have.
Now, wait for incoming incident.
So kind of end up at a computer.
Click
you can see
new incident to display the
now we're in. They look
the
fairly similar, top-down maps of various
possible.
areas. Now the maps, of course, are going to look different because these are in different
when
locations.
When a unit arrives, the situation
overview,
the team members will do their job automatically.
The other one is what I chose.
Now you have an incoming call.
Right off the get-go, very similar games, but there is a lot of minor differences between these games as far as little quality of life things, such as vehicle icons and movement speed and stuff like that. The calls with 1112 Operator tend to feel a little bit more involved as you get to see kind of what's going on in the call almost. You get to sort of see that with 911 Operator, but it's not as detailed. You know, it's almost like a top-down RTS view almost with 1112 Operator, where you click on a emergency. You still can't control what's going on, but it actually shows, you know, people kind of moving around and everything, just give you kind of a rough idea of what's actually happening. You're also able to write down descriptions and stuff during calls, which doesn't really amount to much, to be honest. It's just a nice little well, not even necessarily a quality of life feature, but nice little defining thing, I guess you could say, almost, for it. Aside from that, though, I mean, you can see calls, very similar calls, you know, when they're coming through here. So, yeah, largely the biggest difference, I would say, between these two games, almost, is the UI alone. There is a couple other minor things, like I said, like with 1112 Operator, you can zoom into the map. Now, like I said, there is a lot of stuff about 911 Operator that's come out in DLCs and changed that I'm not familiar with everything. 1112 Operator looks like it's had some DLCs too, I believe. But like I said, at least right offhand, I know the biggest difference for 1112 is that you get wildland fires, and then the map will expand out. So your map will actually grow as you play, which I think maybe got cut from this video. I got an extension of my map like right at the end of the video, so you may or may not see that with 1112 Operator here.
What's the emergency?
I've got this muted here while I'm playing, and I actually should maybe turn it up just a little bit so I can kind of hear what's going on as far as these emergencies and stuff go. We've already burned through like 5 minutes. I've got various calls and stuff coming. I mean, you can see some of these calls are almost lining up perfectly here. As far as the call quality goes, I would definitely give 1112 a much bigger advantage in that regard, as the calls just feel a little bit more genuine. That something just felt off about the calls in 911 Operator. You know, the calls were mostly realistic enough. I mean, some of 1112 Operator's calls almost feel over the top, but the acting just feels much better in 1112 Operator. Yeah, Sorry, I've got these two calls going at once on my end because I've got the audio running and do want to be blocking out one of these audio so you guys aren't hearing both games go at once. But not sure how this is going to pan out exactly, so I don't know which is to concentrate on or which is I'm going to focus on.
As long as you're in.
So I feel like there's maybe a little bit more engagement too with the 1112 operator calls. At least the earlier ones. Now, I don't know if there's as much variety with the amount of calls and stuff. And there's workshop support and stuff for these games, which is pretty nice, so you can download some additional calls and stuff like that. 911 operator does not have that, but 1112 operator does, so that's another big thing. 1112 operator does have workshop support, which gives you additional calls and stuff like that, so that's a big thing, I would say, is workshop support. That's huge longevity as modding right there. So right offhand, I would say 1112 operator is a very big advantage just based off modding. The rest of the game, there's a lot of stuff in there. The nice quality of life, like I said, features enough to maybe justify paying out the extra money if you guys don't mind paying a little bit extra. I don't even know what these go for right at the time of recording even, so I should maybe look into that. So I guess we can do that while I'm recording. So 911 operator is $2.24. Wow, that is so much cheaper than what I would have thought. Versus the $15.49 for 1112 operator. Both games have various DLCs, which are pretty cheaply priced, ranging anywhere from, you know, like $1 or $2 to, you know, $5 to, I think, maybe $10 on the high end, potentially. I think the biggest I've seen, though, is like $5 between the two games.
911, what's your emergency?
Now, honestly, is there worth...
Hello? Is anyone there?
You know, $15 difference? For the modding support alone, like I said, once again, I would say yes, for longevity's sake, and just because, honestly, this is a pretty solid game franchise from an indie company.
Please press any digit on your phone.
With regards to that, I would say definitely if you can afford to support them, support them. If you don't care about modding, if you don't care about supporting the developer, then yeah, definitely 911 operator doesn't really cut out a huge amount of stuff. The games are pretty similar enough that you'd see a lot of the same stuff just from the base games. That it probably wouldn't necessarily justify a $15 difference.
Please lock your phone and make sure you won't call 911 by accident again.
But ultimately, you know, the whole point of this video is so you guys can kind of see and listen to both games and just hear my thoughts on it. So you guys can ultimately make your own decision. So, personally for me, though, like I said, I've got both games. I don't regret buying either of them. They've both been fantastic titles for me. I've put a lot of time into them. A little less than 1112 Operator because, like I said, it is very similar. One of my biggest gripes with 1112 Operator was the fact that because the map grew, it was very hard to keep up with the units. I felt like I couldn't afford enough units to actually keep up with the map expansions. Now, that didn't seem so bad in this campaign I was doing here. I was able to do several days before it made the map expand out, and I didn't feel like I was playing catch-up at all with trying to get units out everywhere. That was a big issue I had early on, was it was very challenging to respond to every emergency because I just couldn't afford to buy more units to actually get proper coverage out, and the map gets so big and it forced you into buying more expansions. Now, I don't know if it still forces you to buy expansions. I don't know if that's changed, but like I said, at least during the course of this campaign, I didn't really feel like I was struggling to afford units or like is expanding faster than I could handle. That could still be the case. So, with 911 Operator, first day ending, had a negative response based off of one of my calls. So, poorly handled. And then, first day I accidentally pressed the wrong button on 1112 Operator and ignored a call that was actually in the middle of responding to, and took a negative thing from that too. So there's a reputation and stuff, which I never really felt like it was a huge detriment or impact one way or the other. It's pretty hard to screw up. Now, if you screw up a lot, maybe it would be much different with the reputation system. Definitely the money and stuff that you get from that is, you know, a big factor. There's also little detail stuff that 1112 Operator kind of adds in with regards to various calls and stuff where you'll get emails. So you'll get like email tips from, you know, your boss in game, and they'll say, oh, well, here's your objectives to, basically guide somebody through how to do CPR or try to do this or that, and the calls to keep your reputation up, stuff like that. But you'll also get emails from the people you've helped and the people who have died under you, and you'll get emails that are kind of pressuring you under that. You may or may not see that in 1112 Operator, depending on the audio and stuff, where there's a bow murderer in one of the events, and you have to try and catch the bow murderer, and you get a lot of pressure for that because you have to try and catch up to it. And if you get there in time, I think you can catch the person pretty early on, but it's always tough because the game slows your units down during those calls, and the calls don't always last long, so you gotta try and keep people on the line and stuff like that and try to catch them in the act. Aside from the unit variety and stuff, once again, it's pretty similar. Workshop support's going to add a lot of stuff. There's also DLCs for both games that add a lot of things in and stuff like that. I think a lot of those ended up being free updates. Once again, when I played 911 Operator, it was very early on. It was still early access and everything for the most part by the time I kind of quit playing it. So they've added a lot of units going back. They've added things like horse-mounted police and bike cops and all this other stuff. The vehicles definitely feel a little bit more important, though, especially with regards to the fire department in 1112 Operator. With 1112 Operator, you have water management that you have to worry about with fire trucks, so that's a pretty big thing. Gameplay-wise, that's a big change-up between the games, is that fire trucks have a limited supply of water, so for big things like wildfires or structure fires, your vehicles will have to stop and they'll have to go and get more water and then go back to the fire. So that's longer time on scene if you don't have the proper engines and stuff. So you'll have like technical trucks with very small amount of water that can carry a lot of tools and stuff like that, but or maybe are cheaper, but they're not necessarily going to be the most efficient thing if you're actually running a fire. So you have to be smart about what units you're responding with. I don't really feel like that was a big issue in 911 Operator. That was still improvements by having certain vehicles, and certain vehicles would be able to move more quickly through cities and stuff like that. And once again, you factor in costs and stuff like that. But definitely fire department, if you're big on the fire department aspect of that, 1112 Operator, once again, huge difference in gameplay wise right there, as water supply issues and stuff like that.
Sir? What? Sir? Sir?
So yeah, a lot of stuff going on here on both games. Calls once again going on at the same time here, so you guys can kind of see too where you've got this similar kind of beats with timing of calls and stuff like that throughout the game. You do get a lot of different calls that you can interact with and have kind of different moments with. Now with these calls, I did recognize pretty much all the calls in both games. Definitely a little bit more noticeable in 1112 Operator, both because I've played it more recently, but also because the calls are a little bit more grandiose, I would say. So that definitely makes them a little bit more noticeable. So it does make some of the calls feel a little bit more repetitive, maybe a little less genuine to an extent potentially. But still very, very engaging, regardless of the fact that they are repetitive. Still feel somewhat emotionally invested in these calls and what happens, because you can't necessarily speed up how fast the units get there, and I think that, I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it definitely, I think, feels like something as a dispatcher that, if you're a dispatcher, I've never been one, but I've talked to at least one or two dispatchers here, and you're sitting there and you want to be able to help those people and you just can't. Some of at least the one dispatcher I spoke to me, was a former first responder himself, and it's one of those things where it's like, you want to be there for the person, you want to be like
it's all right, ma'am.
Able to help and directly assist and everything. You're just not in a position to do so, and I feel like the units slowing down as you respond to calls and stuff like that definitely factors in that feeling, and you kind of get that feeling yourself, for better or for worse. So I feel like it creates a little bit more strong of an emotional attachment to the various calls and to the people you're talking to. Definitely a game that I tend to play sped up, though. It can get a little crazy sometimes at full speed. Sometimes you do need to slow down a little bit. But the game does feel very slow-paced, and that's kind of the case with both games. it does feel like it takes a huge amount of time, but you gotta also consider that, well, it doesn't look like the ants are moving very far. You're looking at a top-down map of a giant city area, possibly several cities or counties even, depending on how big your map gets in, say, 1112 operator, for instance.
We're ready.
So we're about halfway through the video here. We're down to the 14-minute mark. And yeah, I mean, I'm kind of running out of things to say about the games at this point, honestly. I mean, you can see what I'm talking about. The games, well, the UIs are very different, and there's a lot of different quality of life things here, or finer detail points. Overall, the games are very similar. Like I said, that's kind of the thing to expect with a thing like this, is that you're talking about the original and the sequel. So, that's what I was kind of saying. If you're just looking at the base game only, definitely without a hesitation, I would say 911 Operator is going to probably get you more bang for your buck at only $2.24 US versus, you know, the 1314 or whatever that 1112 is going for. But both games definitely at least $13, $15, whatever, even $20, I would say, is probably worth this title.
911, what's your emergency?
Now with the DLCs and everything, you know, you might end up paying that if you want to get everything anyway. So I mean, I would say it's kind of justified, or pretty close to it.
Sir,
so,
you should contact the emergency
yeah, I mean, we're
services
just
to
gonna. I
find
guess
out
we'll
your
just
case.
kind of wait. I'll let the games talk
Please
for a little
visit the
bit here,
department's
since the
website,
talking is a big
post a
part of
request
it.
to meet with the
I've talked a lot
dispatchers.
through this video, and like I said, part of that is because I want to give my thoughts on it, to try and give you guys feedback and give you my own opinions on
Sorry,
this.
but you cannot. Please do not block the line.
So, but yeah, just since talking is a big part, I want to stay quiet for a little bit, guys. So I do apologize if you want to hear me talk, but if you don't, there you go.
What are the orders? Reporting. 10-4. We are ready. I copy. Going there. Standing by.
113, Lieutenant.
Reporting. 10-4. 10-4. Affirmative. I copy. Going there. Reporting. Affirmative. Reporting. Understood.
5-6-16 Craft Avenue.
2247 West Monroe.
Case solved.
10-4. Alade Road.
Yeah, I'm leaving that later.
We are ready. I copy. Going there.
If there's any FTO or...
Case solved.
112, what's your emergency?
I'm Michael Miller. I need firefighters.
What happened?
There's a gas leak. I was coming back home and I smelled gas. Sir, it's a huge block of flats. Hundreds of people live here.
Do you know where the leak is? What floor are you on?
On the ground floor, sir. I think it's coming from upper floors.
Sending firefighters now.
Thanks, I'm coming up.
What?
My sister is still in the flat. I need to get her, and I'll try to wake as many neighbors as I can.
Did you turn the fire alarm on?
I tried. I pushed the button, but nothing happened. It might be broken.
No, wait. You need to leave the building immediately.
No way! My sister is inside, and plenty of other people. I need to warn them.
Do you have anything that could ignite a spark?
Such as a lighter? I don't think so.
Is the light in the staircase on?
Yes, it turns on automatically. Why?
It may cause an ignition if there's too much gas in the air.
Nothing happened here. And the light is already on. I need to help them anyway.
You need to leave the building. Firefighters will evacuate everyone when they get there.
I can't leave the building. My sister is there.
You might cause an ignition.
I know it's risky, okay? My dad, all firefighters, they risk their life every day. So, I will do it. I need to do it. I'm coming up! Everybody! Leave the building now!
You need to run.
Can't fire suspect.
On my way to hospital.
2247 West Monroe. 10-4.
Assistance from church on the central was important. Over.
Got injured. Going to hospital. Standing by. Reporting right away.
5DVO, 10-5 that location.
Run to the breach on the 788. If there's any FTO or crew for that gun turning, give us some experience. D39 is going to be a 91. I'll pick up an intox.
Reporting. Standing. 10-4.
If there's any FTO or crew for that gun turning, give us some experience.
Got that thing from the, we got resolved.
We are ready. Affirmative.
If there's any FTO or crew for that gun turning, give us some experience.
2247 West Monroe.
I'll send 3 Houston to lock.
Got that thing from the, we got resolved.
Sorry, 10-4, thank you.
1125, can you go to the radio room? Run to the breach on the 788. Copy that, guys, over. After 1K, flying. Secure, we got a visual. Secure up center, play the secure search. I'm grabbing over and just getting out of the base.
Sorry, I got the situation on,
Ready for the next case.
Sorry, 10-4, thank you.
56-16 Craft Avenue. Secure, we got a visual.
Alade Road.
Yeah, I'm leaving Ashley. That's going to be a 90 door. Show me going to the other 1011.
got that thing from the, we got resolved.
I'll locate them some company on Central.
Sorry, 10-4, thank you.
Secure up center, play the secure search.
Sorry, 10-4, thank you. 2247 West Monroe.
56.
All right, guys. So we're getting down to about 8 minutes here, and so you kind of heard a couple calls going at once there. So I'm not sure once again how I edit this as far as sound goes, but I'll probably jump back and forth between the two calls more than likely. Of course, the one call was definitely a little bit bigger than the other call as far as magnitude and just kind of what happened. So might just focus on the one. I don't know yet. Anyways, you'll maybe have noticed on 1112 operator is just before I started talking, there was an accident. And some of the area turned red around the accident. That is because in 1112 operator, traffic patterns can be affected by the calls, and that can change and spread up and it'll build. So it's not exactly 100% accurate for what you would expect for an accident, but it definitely can. It can be kind of interesting because the longer you wait to respond to something like a traffic accident, the worse it can be because it'll take you even longer to actually get there once your unit's en route because of traffic backups and stuff that are going to slow your unit down with regards to responding out to it. So that's kind of an interesting thing. Aside from that, though, I mean, it's not a huge game-changing thing, but it's one of those little things, like I said, it's a little kind of a quality of life thing, or just one of those little things that builds up and makes the game a little bit more replayable, a little bit more unpredictable, a little bit more challenging with regards to 1112 operator. Alright, and yeah, I mean, you can see, though, once again, as I've stated a few times already, the game's pretty similar, though, as far as how the missions and stuff play out. Unit setup is all fairly similar. Your units have different stats and stuff, so different abilities, you know, firefighting capability, driving capability. There's different tools which are going to help them perform their jobs better, such as technical tools and, you know, rifles and pistols and, you know, fire extinguishers and medic bags and stuff like that. So all sorts of different tools and stuff, different vehicles. But ultimately very similar as far as the base games go. Alright, and you can see just basically units. We're kind of getting back into the new day for 911 operators. We wind down the last little bit here, so I'm thinking we probably won't see the end of either of these days. We're pretty early on in our day for 1112 operator as well. Actually, haven't even started our duty for 911 operator yet. Still trying to get our units spread out throughout the city. So you can see 911 operator. We actually get a kind of the tutorial thing showing us how the search and rescue works. Now this is kind of similar. This is actually very similar to how the functionality works with regards to 1112 operator, which is that if you send a unit, you can manually control a unit and have them search each area, which is faster. Or you can just send units to respond out and go to the center of it, and they'll automatically search and everything. The more units you send, the faster it goes. Kind of an interesting little thing, but very similar between the two games as far as that functions, which is why I don't know if the wildfires are a thing in 911 operator. Last time I played it, they were not, but neither was the search functionality as far as I remember. So, something to kind of bear in mind, too, with every game.
Returning to base. Going
Or with the
out
two
of
games, I
control.
should say.
Returning to base.
Awaiting orders. Starting change by.
Reporting. Going there. Reporting. We'll get them.
Ready for
So, I
action.
mean, you can see, kind of looking at 911 operator, correction. You do get to kind of see what's going on in the incident. There's timers and stuff. It just doesn't give you quite the same feel as actually seeing the units kind of move around and engage with the people in that way. And,
112,
you know,
what's
the
your
timer's kind of going up on them, too.
Good morning to you, sir. I'd like to,
Got a call coming in through 1112
Sir,
operator
is everything
here.
okay?
send an ambulance. Quick.
And you can see, once again, 1112 operator, what I was talking about with traffic. So there's an emergency going on there with the technical that my fire truck's responding to, and you can see it's caused this big traffic backup in that section
Tell
of
me
the
your
city.
name, please.
And you can see the fire truck slowed down very significantly when it got up to that section to try and respond to that call. Thankfully, it didn't spread out too far.
Sir, where are you?
I'm at... Oh, you slut! She's deceiving me. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
Sir,
And
where
yeah,
are you?
we're just we're wrapping up in the last few minutes here, guys. So we're down to about 3 minutes 20 seconds, as you guys can see based off the timer. And
Starting control duty.
this is gonna end pretty abruptly. As soon as the timer runs out, the video is gonna be over, guys. Alright, yeah, so I just, stay tuned for the last little bit here. If you guys haven't, I don't normally do this anymore, but hit that subscribe button and like button if you guys would be so kind. I always appreciate that. If you guys want to see more of this in the future, well, I do more regardless of whether or not you want to see it, but if there's any particular matchups you guys want to see, let me know, and I would be happy to try and oblige those to the best of my abilities. Aside from that, I also was going to say something I can't remember, guys.
112.
There was
what's
something
your
else I just
emergency?
completely lost the thought, so I do apologize because I'm pretty sure it's kind of important. Oh, well, not really important, but just let me know who you guys would prefer. Who wins this? 911 operator or 1112 operator? Do you guys go with the cheaper game or
What's
the newer
exact
game?
address,
Obviously, you
sir?
think the newer game's going to win, but some people, they like the simplicity more. They like the fact that it's cheaper. Let me know which of these games
sure
takes it
you
away
did?
for you and why. I would love to know that, guys. Alright, so, yeah, going in, like I said,
Wooden stick.
basically the same thing we've been seeing for the rest of these, 28 minutes so far. And, just vehicles responding, people being helped, stuff like that.
Okay. I'll send the police in an
Both
ambulance.
games, you
Please
do
stay
see
where you
the
are.
kind of diverging pathways as to how you handle the emergencies. It's definitely a little bit more noticeable as far as divergent storylines and stuff with 1112. But you do
Sir,
get
could you
to
stay
an
there
extent
and wait
with
for the
both,
officers to
and
arrive?
how fast you respond and everything.
I'll wait for them to come.
How big of an effect it's going to have. And it's kind of interesting because you never know what's going to turn out to be a big call and what's not, so you're kind of always wanting to try and respond to everything as fast as possible. And if you know where the calls are going to come from ahead of time, that's great, but I don't think you actually have any way of knowing that. I think they're all randomly generated,
Back to base.
within the bounds of the map along a street.
Awaiting further orders.
Operator. Going there. Ready for next.
Alright, yeah, so we're in our last minute here, guys, last 60 seconds of 911 operator versus 1112. I'm just counting down along with the timer here at this point because, like I said, I kind of ran out of things to say about these games. They are very similar games ultimately, but I kind of want to try and highlight the differences between the two games as best as possible. Like I said, there is DLC both games have. I don't have the DLCs for them
exactly is
except
this
for the free DLCs they've done. But both are fantastic games. Definitely justify any DLCs that you can get for these and all that stuff.
What kind of car is it?
Alright. Well, guys, I'm going to go ahead and we'll let my end credits take it away from here in just a moment. So,
Try
guys,
turning the
thanks for
engine
watching the video.
You'll need to force the barrier.
Take it easy, and I'll see you in the next one.
Just run. You need to escape.